everyone. Welcome to Bold Strokes Books' first Bookathon. Thank you all for coming. I apologize if some of you were unable to get into the last panel. We are working hard on that to get our subscription up. So thanks for being here for this one. I just wanted to point out two quick features of Zoom in case you've never used it before. At the top right of your screen is an icon that has a bunch of little boxes. That is called Gallery View, and that will give you the best view of all our lovely panelists. And at the bottom, there is an icon that says Q&A, and that is where you'll post your questions for our panelists. You're welcome to use the chat role for commentary or, talking to each other or comments for our panelists, but questions that you would like answered go into the Q&A. So I'm now going to pass it over to Angie for the Chemistry 101 panel. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I think I'm going to start by asking the authors to tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to write lesbian fiction in the first place. Let's start with Fiona Riley.
Hi, I'm Fiona, if you're not familiar with me. Nice to meet you. I started writing when I was really young, and then I sort of left it to go find a career path that was less fun than writing. And I got sidelined with an illness, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and I sort of just found my writing again and got into writing fan fiction. And then I decided that I wanted to be more productive than just fan fiction. I wanted to expand upon my own characters, and I sort of picked up writing pretty recently. I've only been writing for about 5 years, 6 years now, almost 6 years. And again, I loved writing and I lost it and I came back to it, and then I've been doing it ever since.
Awesome. How about Elle Spencer?
Hi, everyone. I started writing fanfic first. So mine was kind of a progression from fan fiction to self-publishing a novella and then publishing a full-length novel, which was called Casting Lacey, and then getting published with Bold Strokes.
Awesome. How many of you started with fan fiction? I think it's pretty popular. Yeah, it's a good way to kind of cut your teeth, I think. How about you, Vali?
I'm Vali. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I started actually with fan fiction. I read, it was kind of interesting. I got as a Christmas present one year the Harry Potter books. I think it was the first 3 that were out, and I read them. And I was wondering, I usually write memos for a living and like business letters, and I thought write something that's longer than a memo. And so I gave it a shot, and 25 books in, I think I'm on number 28 right now. So I'm writing the new Devil book right now, but that's how I kind of came into it.
Wow. Let's go to Laney Weber.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Laney Weber, and I've been writing my whole life. Not published, but have been making up stories. My mom will tell you since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. But and then I decided to take myself and my writing a little bit more seriously. A few years ago, I was helping to edit a woman who was 94 years old, helping to edit her memoir. And when she was finished with that, she was like, I wish I had done this so much earlier. She's like, if you want to write, just do it. So that's when I sat down and hunkered down and started to put some of these stories that have been in my head and in the drawer, putting them together. And then a couple years ago was lucky enough to find Bold Strokes Books as a publisher. And yeah.
Great. And now Erin Zach in sunny Florida.
Yeah, sunny Florida. I'm looking out at my pool right now. So I started with fan fiction as well. I used to write when I was a kid too, like stupid little stories. But then fan fiction, and then I started writing Falling Into Her a long time ago. It was like in 2004 I think. No, 2020. Wait, I don't even know. 2014. That's when it was. I was 24 and I started writing it and I was like, oh, this is never going to go anywhere. And then it became more and more and more and more and more. And I was like, what the heck? And then like I continued to just work on it. And then I finally finished it and I was like, well, now what? So I sent it to Bold Strokes and they wanted to publish it. And I was like, why? But it was really exciting. And I'm actually presently writing book number 8 right now. So.
Great.
Okay, so let's kind of get into the questions here. So I think, like a lot of people, I'm a sucker for second chance romances. And most of you have written about women finding their way back to someone they once loved. Do you find it a challenge to build chemistry between characters who are rediscovering feelings they once had for each other? Fiona, let's start with you. Since your new novel, Not Since You, is about women who accidentally find each other after being apart.
I think the interesting thing about writing a second chance romance like that is that they already have a history. So I found it actually easier to write I found it easier to write them falling more, getting more attracted to each other because they already had a past history. It was a little less build up and a little more reignition, if you will, like just to reignite that passion that was already there. In Not Since You, the book is about 2 high school lovers who they were fated not to make it. They had a lot of bad circumstances happen that broke the 2 of them up. Just the things that happen as you grow up, when you go off to college, or parents dealing with parents and things like that. Loss that happens is just part of growing. They separated in high school, and the story is about one of them going on her honeymoon where she's not married. So she finds out a month before the wedding that her fiance is cheating, and she leaves her, but she'd already paid for this all-exclusive, all expenses paid cruise, so she's not going to lose her money. So she goes on this cruise, and when she's there, she finds out the head bartender on the ship is her girlfriend from high school. And she's on this cruise ship with her, stuck there for 2 weeks, and she has to kind of figure out how to navigate those feelings and what that does and how she's doing. So it was a lot easier to write chemistry because they had a history. So if anything, it was a matter of it was writing grown-up chemistry. So not teenage chemistry where they're sort of figuring each other out and kind of navigating the awkwardness of, first love. This was a matter of, it's been 10 years and I've had some experience and you've had some experience and where do we line up now? And you're still super hot. So.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because it is the chemistry when they're young and then the chemistry when they're older. I mean, you're a different person when you're older. So sure. That's a good point. Anybody else want to add to that?
Sure, I will. I think second chance romances really lend themselves well to angst, which I love to write. You have them being torn apart from each other for whatever reason, and then you have them the path back to each other and all the obstacles that can be put in their way, which is really kind of fun for me. Sometimes I torture them along the way, but I think it's great.
Sometimes it's hard. When I wrote the Devil book, they were apart when they met. I mean, when they got back, they saw each other again for the first time in like 4 years. And then, but sometimes I like to write bitchy, and then it's kind of hard to go back from that. So every once in a while, you kind of write yourself into a corner. And it's like, I need to make this person nice again.
Now that I've pissed everybody off.
Yeah, exactly. 7 more books to write in this series. I'm like one of the main characters.
That's what the delete button's for.
Yeah, really.
Go back.
Okay. Let's see. So, Erin, this question's for you. In The Road Home, that's out early in May, your characters start as rivals. Do you find it challenging to navigate that balance between love and hate and to build the chemistry somewhere in the middle?
I find it difficult. I find it interesting too, because I feel that in all like when you hate someone, like there's a lot of passion there, whether it be just like, you know, friendship passion or enemy passion, whatever. Like it's very, very intriguing to me to know that like you have to have feelings involved in order to hate someone that much and to dislike them that much, and to find the difference between like what kind of feelings those are is something that I really enjoy doing. A lot of my books start with the characters kind of like put off by each other and then sort of figuring out that this animosity means a lot more than just like, I don't like this person. And I also feel like I'm a very jealous person, so I'm very easy to, I can write jealousy really easily. So like that whole idea that like in the beginning, that one of my characters is very jealous of the relationship that her rival has with her mom. Like she's like, you know, I should have had that relationship with my mom, but you have it, and I don't like that. And I think that it becomes this like back and forth of how do you figure out that this jealousy is actually more than just being jealous? You're actually attracted to the person, you enjoy them, you really want to be able to find out that you have more in common than you realize. So I actually really enjoy writing the rivals to lovers. It's just a lot of fun for me.
Are you jealous of the mom's attention or the other person?
Well, I mean, in the book, I really think it's hard for the daughter, to the real life daughter, to like see that her mom has accepted this other lesbian, when the whole point, like the whole reason that she left home was because her mom kind of disowned her for being a lesbian. And so then this like surrogate daughter kind of comes in and takes all the love and motherly love that she always wanted. And she's kind of like, what the why her? Like, why not me? And then it becomes that whole thing. But in real life, I mean, I would assume that it's just, you know, I don't even know. I don't know. My mom's dead.
Oh my God, this got real deep.
I'm gonna cry. Thank God I have a drink. Oh man!
Cheers, Erin. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. I'm gonna take a sip, to be honest.
Okay, so we have a question here from somebody. Do you find part of yourselves leaking into books, particularly the angst and doubt?
110% yes. Yes.
I think it does. Sneaks in.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I think it's hard not to. I think it's hard. I think sometimes when you're writing that angsty or even just like the jealousy or whatever, like it's just hard to not put yourself in the shoes of your character or put your character in your shoes, because you want to write something that feels very real. And
is it like a therapeutic process for you?
Yes.
It can be.
I cried a lot at Panera.
We're learning so much right now.
Right, you've experienced, it makes, you know, it makes it more real on the page. You know, it's hard to do sometimes when you share that much of yourself, but it does, to me, I think it makes it much more authentic.
I think for any writing to be, you know, to be really felt, it needs to be vulnerable. Like I think you have to put a certain amount of your own experiences or your own interpretations, your empathetic responses to things into your characterization. Otherwise, they'll feel flat. And I think that's kind of where the chemistry aspect comes from, right? Like, what is it that's going to ignite these two people against each other? Where's the chaos? Where's the romance for that? And that comes from people being vulnerable and putting themselves out there and putting these characters out on a limb to be hurt or, you know, loved or cherished or whatever it is that you're looking for in that moment. They have to get to that point. And I think those come from real life experiences, because we've all had hurt or loss or disappointment, and we can draw from it. It could be a small disappointment. Yours might be bigger than mine. Our comparisons might be different. Everyone's different. But I think we can all draw from those emotions to add to the depth of the character. And I think that's where the chemistry part comes in. Because you find out that what it is that pisses someone off, like in Erin's Rivals, or what is it that makes someone feel untrustworthy or unsafe, or someone in Elle's book that's going to get chased down by somebody with a gun, like kind of like Allie's books or whatever. I mean, those are the things. Like, are you scared? What does that feel like? Like, how does that transmit into your characters? And I think it does come from a source of a personal reflection.
So it's a vulnerable situation just to write a book and put it out there and let people read it, and to know that for me, because I'm such a private person, for me to know that somebody might learn something about me through these books is something I had to deal with. You know, I had to let go of that. So.
Okay, so Allie, your new novel, Face the Music, is also an enemies to lovers romance. Do you find a lighter romance more difficult to write than, let's say, a King Casey novel where enemies tend to live only long enough, or don't tend to live long enough to have any chemistry?
Actually, well, I guess if you read the kind of the span, I do like to do standalone romances, but I find they're not as fun as the King Cases of the world. It's like a good stress reliever. But I guess the difficult part, well, I mean, it's easy because the standalone romances, there's no one dying per se. I mean, unless it's like from an illness, kind of like in The Inheritance a little bit. But like in the new one, Face the Music, no one dies.
Spoilers!
I know, spoiler alert!
It does die, but it's not, you know, they're not shot or anything. But which I love to do. Or fed through a meat grinder, that kind of thing. Those are a little bit more real. That those are the ones where you kind of put more of your life experiences in it. I think the one that has the most life experience in it is probably the one that came out in January, which is The Inheritance. When you live through something like that, you put it on the page, and it's kind of hard to go back and reread it. But in the King Casey one, I guess to that one, the chemistry, the hardest thing to do is when you have a character who, let's face it, in reality is a little bit of a psychopath. She's a very unique problem-solving set of skills, and is to make that person vulnerable, which hopefully comes across on the page. You have to find someone who you love and trust enough to kind of take your armor off and take the mask off that the rest of the world sees. So in some cases, it's kind of a balancing act, but you know, the double crosses and the King Caseys of the world are very, very fun to write if you like that genre of book. But I also do like the standalones, because it does prove that maybe I don't need mental health care.
Doesn't prove that at all. Doesn't prove it all. I read them. It's not true. You're a sick individual.
It might take me down a couple of notches in the FBI, you know, like watching the things that I Google. Questions that I ask Google. How long does it take to feed someone through a meat grinder?
Research.
Okay, so let's take another question here. How do you decide how much sexual tension versus actual steam and sex to put in a novel?
Ask Fiona that one. Their books and Sweetie at the same time.
You know, I think it's, Allie has a really funny story about nearly cutting off her foot listening to one of my stories once. Maybe she'll tell you. But I think it comes down to the characters, right? Because I think in my first novel, Mismatch, that both characters were, you know, very confident and outgoing, and they had a natural sexual tension and physical attraction right away. So I feel like their relationship discovery was quick and fast. And I think that, like in Not Since You, which is a second chance romance, again, I think the ignite of attraction happened quickly, but there was a little bit more history and past with them, so they had to kind of wade through the emotional stuff first, and then it got, you know, then when the fire got lit, it was a bonfire. So that happens. But I think it depends on the characters. I think it depends on the situation. But I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you, the more sexual tension in a book and the more sex in a book is the better. Like, I'm not going to shy away from that for sure. I use it as a palate cleanser. If I hit writer's block, I write a sex scene. That's how I do it. So yeah, I think it's character driven, but I think I like the more of it, the better for me. More is good.
Okay, so this one's for everyone. What do you think is the most important ingredient when building chemistry between characters? But you, Erin.
The most important ingredient
Yeah.
for chemistry between characters, I think that in order for your characters to really hit it off at like chemistry wise, I don't mean like relationship wise, because 9 times out of 10 they don't like each other at first, is that instant like spark that they don't know how to describe. There's something there that draws them to this character that they don't understand. They are like, why do I like this person so much? Like, they infuriate me. Why am I so excited about everything that happens with them? And that part is, I think, super, super important. And I don't really know how to describe what that is, but I would say that it's definitely in every book that I write, there's always something that just like grabs someone's attention. Like in Beautiful Accidents, it was Bernadette, was the interpreter, and she sees this girl come in that is so against tarot card readings that she's like, what is with this chick? What is going on here? There's something underlying here that I don't understand. I like it. So I think there's got to be something that makes them want to know the other character more.
For me, it's dialogue. I like that, when folks meet and what's going on in the dialogue, kind of a what's being said, what isn't being said, and how the characters over time figure that out and reveal themselves to each other. But I love reading wonderful sort of back and forth dialogue between folks that are kind of snapping at each other a little bit in a lightly teasing way. I like that a lot, so I like to try to write that in my stories too. So.
Yeah, I think Laney's right. I think dialogue is the best kind of foreplay, right? Because you're figuring out the person, you're figuring out what they like, what they don't like. You get a sense of their characterization, you get a sense of their sass, you get a sense of like how playful they are, how serious they are. If one of them's kind of a curmudgeon or one of them's really super flirty, like that's where you get that across. That comes from dialogue. So I think that's the best way to build tension, is to antagonize or engage or trade barbs, whatever you need to do.
Also, I think it's finding that that balance between dialogue and inner dialogue. What are they saying out loud, but what are they really thinking?
Yeah.
That can create a lot of interesting scenes too.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
In some cases, difference too. Because my characters tend to be a lot different, so it's finding those, and usually it's through dialogue, the bridges that kind of bring them together. But it's those differences that kind of maybe sparks an interest at first.
Intrigues.
Yeah.
Okay, Laney, this next question is for you. In The Real Thing, your book is about 2 characters who are both questioning the sincerity of each other's feelings. How do you build authentic chemistry between characters who aren't even sure of their own feelings?
Yeah, well, I'll just kind of circle back to the dialogue piece again. And with these 2 folks, with Elle and Gina, they had to feel comfortable enough to start to reveal who they really are to each other. And they had to, at the same time, feel that the other person really liked them in order to begin to feel that trust and kind of peel back, the little layers of themselves that they had in check for different reasons, both of them for totally different reasons. But so that was, it was a little bit of a tricky dance. It was fun to figure out just how far was too far. They kind of let me know when I went a little too far. The other character would just kind of let me know. And no, no, that would turn me off, or I'd run out the door. So then I would scale it back. Okay, I can't go that far. So it was them being able to begin to trust enough to reveal just a little bit more of who they really were to each other.
Awesome. Okay, I've got a question here from Donna Ford. Are you more comfortable writing physical chemistry or emotional chemistry?
Depends on the
Fiona.
For me, it's emotional.
I like to write physical chemistry. I think it's the fastest way to get chemistry for most people. I think whether it's a touch or a look or the way you put your hand on the back of someone's low back when you guide them through a door, like I think that physical contact is what initiates a lot of initial chemistry. I mean, there's definitely the visual feedback of finding attractive, but I think the way you handle another person's body before you're intimate tells a lot about how you're going to handle them when you are intimate. And I think that that's a way for you to really express how you feel about someone. So I'm writing a story now, a new series actually. It's called Bet Against Me, and it's a high-stakes romance series. So it takes place in a luxury real estate firm, and there's two rival realtors who are competing, and they are constantly at each other, you know, snapping and teasing and antagonizing, and you know, effectively like trying to top the other one verbally just to get ahead of what they need to. But halfway through this book, you have to see when they start to fall kind of more into each other and get that attraction, that repulsion becomes attraction. What transitions that is the physical contact, because one of them handles the other one in a way that's very gentle, unexpectedly, and it's received by both of them sort of, they're curious and then they're intrigued by that, and then that changes things. So for me, physical chemistry is easier to engage with, and emotional chemistry is like kind of what Laney said, it's kind of a walk back for me. Like I'd rather engage physically and then think about how I feel emotionally, and then eventually the two of them do, I think, combine. But physical for me is easier to start and then walk back emotionally. I think it's easier to be physical with someone than to be emotional with someone, just on the surface.
That's very well said. I completely agree. I think too, what's always so fun is that very first physical touch, you know, that starts that intimacy. If it is, I mean, obviously I love being internal and writing emotions and feelings, and I'm a Pisces. All right. Like that's my shtick. But that first physical touch is always so much fun to write. Like the spark, you know, that like gets them to go, what's happening with this? You know, that's something I'd like to investigate. So I think that always leads to some really great emotional intimacy, even within themselves, or you know, just however it plays out.
Yeah, and it seems very true to real life.
Yeah,
you know, chemistry and.
I'm trying to get better at that emotional thing. Victoria Villasenor is my editor, and she always puts that in there, like, what is emotionally happening? It's like, girl.
They're emotionally going through a wood chipper. That's what's happening.
Who cares what they're thinking, you know? Now it's just emotion. It's cue for like rights and emotion. Okay. Hopefully I'm getting a little better.
That's wonderful.
This next one's for Elle. In Waiting for You, Lindsay has an advantage because Ren isn't exactly a stranger, even though they've never met. How was it writing the chemistry between them since they were coming from such different places?
Yeah, they were coming from very different places. So Lindsay believes that Ren is the reborn version of someone she loved in a previous life. She had a past life experience when she was a teenager, and it stuck with her. And when she meets this woman, she really feels like that's who this woman is. And so her attraction is, you know, knowing that she was so in love with her in another life. But she's also very hesitant because, I mean, you know, that's crazy, right? You don't say that to someone. Oh, I knew you in another life and I loved you, you know? So she's dealing with that. And Ren, for her, meeting Lindsay, it's just pure physical attraction. She's just attracted to this person. And she has no idea about the other stuff for a while. And so, yeah, it was an interesting thing to write, but also a fun story.
Okay, so let's take another question over here. How's everybody handling being locked away? I know you're not completely locked away, Allie, but
Well, I go from the house to the office and then back to the house. And every once in a while, I'll venture out to the grocery, but that's about it. I've
does it affect
never
your
watched so
writing?
much television in my life. Like, wow. And then it's like I figured out I'm learning more and more as I watch Netflix, some of these real kind of like documentary kind of things. Then I'm not really that weird. There's a whole level of weird out there that makes me look really, really normal. So, and we just finished watching Unorthodox yesterday, which is based on it's a little different, but you know, I'd gone to see the Amish a couple years ago, and I walked away with the feeling of, thank God I'm not Amish. This gave me a whole new level of wow. So that was Tiger King takes the cake. That one was like, whoa. That and don't F with cats.
I've heard about that one. I haven't watched
Like,
that one.
wow, these people have a whole lot of time on their hands, but God bless them. God bless them.
How about you, Fiona?
My work is on a standstill. I do provide an essential service, but I provide an essential service in people's homes. So I'm definitely on a break. I do have some employees out working and things like that, but it's very limited. So I'm home almost 24/7, except for grocery store trips. The challenging part for me is I have two really small kids. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So no one's in school, no one's in daycare, no one's anywhere. So for me, for writing, I'm getting up before they get up, and I'm writing well after they sleep with almost nothing in the middle, because the kids don't line up with their naps right now. So one goes down, one gets up, one goes down, one gets up for 5 hours. So it's it's a challenge, you know, and there's a lot more dishes at home all the time now. So I definitely think for me, it's majorly impacted my writing, because I can only do first thing or last thing, which is fine because I write the best sex at night, which is most of my books anyway. But I'm tired because I'm getting up really early to write before they wake up. So I love being home, but it's definitely a change from what I'm used to.
I'm still working.
Who's still working?
I'm still going to work every day.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I still go to work every day.
How's your writing affected by Panera being closed?
It's, to be completely honest, I know this sounds very friggin' dramatic from me. I know. It sucks. All right. It absolutely sucks. I have become dependent on Panera. And now I'm at home and I'm like, you know, I close the door and I can still hear Hannah clacking around out there. Gail, God bless her, she tries very hard to not, you know, quote unquote bother me, but I'm still just like, look at that pool. You know, like I should be in there. I should be out there. I want to go lay out there. I'm going to go lay out there. So I get like 500 words instead of 8,000, which is what I normally get on a good writing day, is 8,000 words. And I'm getting like maybe 1,000. So it's been rough. If
you had known ahead, you could have gotten Gail a Panera apron.
That is perfect. Oh my gosh. Let me go ahead for eBay right now, right? Oh, that's some fun role playing. I just need you to put this apron on. Don't ask questions.
Can you bring me some soup? That'd be great.
In a bread bowl. In a bread bowl.
Anybody else want to chime in on their?
I'm working from home.
Oh, go ahead, Laney.
Thanks. I'm working from home. I'm a library director and the library's closed, but we're doing a lot of offering information and offering downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, and I'm helping a lot of people and older folks with tech assist on how to do these things. So doing a lot of that. So I'm on the computer a lot more. So that's affecting my writing, because I tend to, after a long day at work, being on the computer now with Zoom meetings and other things, I'm like, I really don't want more screen time, but I really need to write. So that's been a tricky balance the past few weeks for me.
Well, keeping the elderly people in a safe place is an essential job right now. So
Yes.
you're appreciated.
Yeah.
How about you, Elle?
My parents, yes, we're forcing them to be in total lockdown and having their groceries delivered because we absolutely do not want them to be exposed in any way. And as far as me and my wife, Nikki, goes, we both work from home. So that's not much different, but we are on total lockdown too. And it's kind of rough at times. The cabin fever, you can't just go out and get a frozen yogurt or whatever. And so that part of it, I'm looking forward to being able to get out again. But we're so lucky because for one thing, we love each other. That helps, right? When you're stuck with a person, that's helpful.
Well, you live in the desert, so when you finally are able to get out of your house, it's going to be like 130 degrees outside. So.
Oh yeah, you had to bring that up. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it's gonna be brutal out there.
You see
lot of
all these
night
funny
times.
memes, but that one meme that said, I didn't realize my 3 hobbies were going to eat out at restaurants,
Right.
going to non-essential businesses, and touching my face.
Touching my face. I keep doing it over here. I'm like, thank God I'm at home. You guys are gonna think I'm. Oh, God.
I've got my hands under my legs. That's the only way it works for me.
God, I should have done that.
All right, now.
I have another question here. When you're choosing the use of first person or third person point of view, do you find one is better than the other for expressing characters' feelings, especially when you get to those bonfires?
Mm-hmm.
I've never written anything first person because it just is very hard. I mean, there's so many people that do it well, especially in erotica. I mean, I guess it's a great way to write erotica, but it's like, wow, you have to make like everything in the book come through one person. That's a lot of work. I mean, that's why I've never. A lot of work.
I'm busy.
I try reading them, but I just, the day I sit down to do that, maybe is when I'm retired. I don't have another job to worry about.
Work on it. Yeah, it does seem that some people, it's either they find that first person really easy or second or third person really easy.
I've written it both ways, and both ways, and it's interesting both ways. It just depends on the story for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'll go both ways. Look at all the things you're learning.
What did you say?
She said you go both ways.
Oh, I go both ways. No. No.
She's like, no.
It was a big no, Elle.
That was a big no.
No. Yeah.
I've written both, and I like when I write first person, I typically write first person from both characters' points of view, so it'll switch at a chapter. Because I really like the idea of knowing about each person's thoughts, but I also really love writing first person. So I don't want to write the whole book in first person just from one perspective, because I feel like what Allie said, that's very difficult. But I really like the idea of like jumping, like when you're in the middle of a scene or whatever, and then being inside the other character's head and just doing that all from first person as well. Create a Life to Love was 3 different characters' perspectives in first person. And it was like, a lesbian, a straight woman, and a 16-year-old girl. So it was like having to jump from that was difficult, but it was I loved it. I loved doing that because it like makes me like flex my writer's muscle a little bit. So yeah, it's very wimpy right now.
You're not in the pool enough.
I know. It's because I'm trying to write. Sorry.
Okay, so let's do this question for Allie. Vali, do you prefer to write instant chemistry or when it has to build?
I like it. Well, the first one that I wrote was instant chemistry, was in The Inheritance. And then so we got to the sex like really fast. And then the wheels came off the train. The middle was like really sad. So, but I actually like that one in that instant. But I like to build. That's why I've never really been good at erotica. It's kind of amazing when they accept an erotica for me because I'm too wordy. That's not my words.
I don't want to brag, but
it's like I get that a lot. When you turn a man, and it's like, yeah, no, this is 10,000 words, and we only 500 of them are sex. So I need a reason why two people need to get together. So I think I like most of them are slow burn. So I guess that was my one foray into quick burn was The Inheritance, and then after that it was the slow burn. So I would think the slow burn is more my favorite. It's the one that I write the most of. So it's not usually, I see them at the frozen foods at the grocery store, and then we're in the bathroom having sex here. I need a way more build up than that.
After you wash your hands, though, right? Like after the hand washing.
Not right now. You don't want that right now. Just between those masks.
That's fantastic. I think for me, I think I've written both. I like a fast burn for sure. I think that the next book in the series starts with a one night stand within the first 2 chapters. And then it's a matter kind of like we talked about before about like a physical chemistry and then emotional walk back to kind of figure how that feels. I think it's easier to build really intense chemistry if it's a slow burn because you're so anticipating them getting together. Whenever that happens, assuming it happens, it should happen. But when it gets there, I mean, you're like so amped up, ready for them to do whatever they're going to do, that it makes it that much more enjoyable. So I think it's a little more challenging to do a fast burn, which is why erotica is such a different animal than writing regular romance. Because, romance is 65 to 89, 95,000 words, and erotica can be 2,300. It can be 10,000. It can be whatever. And it's just because of what your goal is. Is your goal for them to have sex and move on, or is your goal for them to have an emotional, physical connection that goes together? So I think they're both super rewarding. They're just different. A slow burn, I think, engages the reader faster if that's what they're looking for. If you want to have the anticipation and the excitement of a first kiss, a slow burn is the way to go. If you want them to have sex because you need to read somebody having sex, then that's the fast burn's the way to go. What's your flavor of the month? Like whatever you want.
You eat right through your tennis shoes. Right down your
Well, and it can be both. It can be, the fast burn where they get together right away. Right away. And then slow burn to them getting back together. Mm-hmm. So then you have both.
That's an infuriating burn.
Okay. So I think we're getting kind of towards the end here, and I want to give you all a chance to talk about future projects. Erin, you want to start?
Sure. So I have, The Road Home comes out in May, and then The Other Women comes out in September, which is kind of like a Las Vegas, 3 women are entangled, and I'm not going to tell you who ends up together. Oh my goodness, they're so excited by this book. Same. I hope everybody else is. But then my next book, right? My next book after that is what is it? I don't know. It's like a bodyguard kind of book. It's like my first foray into intrigue. And then I'm also doing, hopefully doing a book with Jackie D and Jean Copeland about a serial killer with a romance aspect. That's good. Right? I'm like, I don't know how to write this. I was on the phone with Jackie and she was like explaining stuff and I was like, I am so afraid of you right now. She's like, her brain, it's amazing. And so that should be a lot of fun.
Pointers.
I might be like, Allie Valley, help me right now. I gotta shove this person through a meat grinder. So, but yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I have a short story coming out too in a compilation done by A.E. Radley, which is like, I don't know when that's coming out. I had to turn it in by May. So that's it for me.
A lot.
Let me, before anybody else starts, let me mention too, that there's a flash sale going on right now, live. That is all these lovely authors, say 10% off lesbian romance, no pre-orders. And the coupon code is romance. It's case sensitive, so it's all caps, romance. And that's on the BSB site. And I think it's also posted in the chat roll. Okay, so Laney, do you want to talk about anything you have coming up?
Sure. Well, The Real Thing came out this month, April, just now. And I'm working on a story, another small town New England romance that takes place on the coast of Maine. It's women who are in their late 50s. And one is a librarian who has come back to sort of the small town she grew up in to take over for her grandmother was the town's librarian for many, many years. And she's come there to take over. And some folks aren't that thrilled with all the changes she's doing. And there's another woman who's an archivist who's come up just for the summer to do some work with some things that were found in the basement of the old library.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little tiny smidgen of mystery, some romance, and of course sex. I love writing sex scenes, so yeah.
My people.
I like
High five, Fiona.
How about you, Elle?
So I have Waiting for You. Here it is. That's coming out in May, and that's a contemporary romance with a past life twist. But think of it as a past life rom-com, because you're going to laugh in this book. So it's not, I didn't take the subject matter too seriously. So I think it's a fun read. And then coming out in November, I have a book called The Holiday Treatment, which is very much a Christmassy themed book. Two TV people are trying to get the first full-length lesbian movie made for a major network. So also contemporary and rom-com-y.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Fiona?
I'm working on a new series right now. It's called it's called the Bet series. It's a high stakes romance series. Each book like I said before, it takes place in a luxury real estate firm, and it centers around three main characters who you'll meet in the first book. The first book, the one that will be out later this year, is called Bet Against Me. The second one's called Bet the Farm, and the third is Beginner's Bet. And it all takes place at this place called Gamble and Associates, which is where this realtor firm. And it's all about some really high, powerful women who are really headstrong and super confident, kind of taking on these challenges that come through the office. And they're all a little different. The first book, Bet Against Me, is a rivals book for sure. It's about two rival realtors who were in competition for Realtor of the Year, and one won and one didn't. And there was a bet that was proposed that they could prove their actual value by taking on this massive sales project on the Seaport in Boston. So if you're familiar with the area, it's this new high-rise that's being built. It's really fun. It's a fun book to write. All three of the books seem to be really fun. They're writing themselves. I'm writing each book as I go, but I definitely have been writing chapters of other books, which has never happened for me before. So it's cool. It's really cool to be back into a series. My first foray into professional writing was with a series, and I'm happy to be back there. I like that. And then later this year, around Christmas time, I do have a novella coming out, a Christmas novella called A Christmas Miracle, and it's going to be in a book with Maggie Cummings and George Beers. And it's going to actually touch on some characters you're going to see in the Beth series. So it takes place at a bar in Boston. So that's coming up, and I'm really
Fun.
excited.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. I think just Sally Valley's left.
Yeah, this month was Face the Music. Later on this summer, actually, Carson and I will be talking about that on Sunday. If anybody's around, please join us for that chat. We're doing a novella collection of second chance romance. So it's, again, you know, somebody you met, the girl that got away kind of thing. So mine is On the Rocks. It's a distiller in New Orleans and makes very fine whiskey, and a marketing executive or advertising executive from New York. And they went to college together. They kind of fell out a little bit. Later on this fall will be One More Chance, kind of another second chance romance. That one is kind of a tough subject matter. It deals with domestic violence, but it's high school sweethearts who they lost touch because of certain circumstances. And then one is a orthopedic surgeon, and they meet again when her love interest shows up in the emergency room because she is the victim of domestic violence. So it kind of goes from there. And then I'm in the current process of writing, it's really the 8th book, but it's the 7th book in the series that follows the chronicle, from the first Devil book until now, not the prequel one that I wrote, but it's The Devil Incarnate. So the 7th book in the series will be out early next year.
Are there going to be tigers in that book?
Yes, tigers.
I've just ordered vats and vats of sardine oil.
I wonder what you're going to do with that.
It was really good because I've gotten away from that one a little bit, and so it's good to be back to those characters, especially now. And it's good, like I said, it's a good stress reliever. You can kill people.
I know I feel that way.
That Carol woman from the Tiger show could be in one of these novels.
Exactly.
You can be in this chat.
Oh, hi, Carol.
Yeah, really.
You know, she's from Tampa, right? Like, I literally live 20 minutes or 10 minutes from Tiger King area.
Really?
Oh,
Carol
wow.
Baskin, yeah, the big cat rescue is literally like 10 minutes from my house.
Wow.
I know.
By the time that show was over,
I know.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
Who puts that in their power of attorney? In case I die or by chance disappear. I'm on money this week.
I'm always thinking ahead. Always thinking. Oh, man.
Thank you all so much for talking to us. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yes, thank you so
Cheers
much.
to all the authors and all the readers.
Yes, all the attendees and readers and authors. You guys are amazing.